to your first core skill, your start, you had a really good streamline. So with that, it meant that your legs were quite tight together and your overall entry into the water was done really well. And also, you didn't enter too close to the edge. You actually extended your body, so you entered the water quite far. Also, you had a good reaction. So as soon as I said go, you were pushing off from the block, which is really good. It means you waste not a lot of time. Some of the improvements, more force was needed from your overall dive. So as soon as you hear the go, your arms need to be thrown up into streamline. You need that force into your arms, and really from your legs you push off of the diving block really quickly. With regards to your underwater, it could have been a lot faster. So the way you do that is obviously with your underwater fly kicks. So you should be aiming to do at least more than 3 kicks, but with yours they're quite long. So you really need to work on having really short, rapid butterfly kicks, because your underwater is meant to be the fastest part of your whole race. So you really need to take advantage of that, because that's one of the tactics that you should use in a race. So you've got to work on, the quickness of your fly kicks, and obviously that means that you'll go further with your underwater, which is helpful. Again, with your start, you breathe too soon after your dive. So if you're trying to build up the momentum through your dive, through that explosion off the blocks, if you breathe 1 or 2 strokes into your swim, you're going to break that momentum, break the rhythm, which is what you've been trying to get from that dive. So if you try and leave that breath, I'd say until about halfway if you can, then that's better. So one of the tactics that you should really be using, especially for a 50 metre, which is a sprint, is the minimum amount of breaths that you take. So really you should be taking 1 first halfway on your first stroke, maybe 1 at the flags just before your turn, again 1 say 15 metres, and then really trying to keep your head down so you can build up your momentum and try and go as fast as possible without breaths, because that's going to reduce the time, because every breath you take takes time. Okay. With regard to your turn, you had really good momentum. So you swam fast into the wall, your legs turned over onto the wall, and you kicked off really well. So you had a good explosion off the wall. Where you can improve that, however, is breathing. Again, you breathed after your turn, which is going to break that momentum that you've tried to get from that explosion off the wall. So later we'll do a drill. We'll just have you at 5 metres swimming into the wall, trying to do quick turns with no breathing, really trying to focus on that importance that you shouldn't be breathing. With your finish, there was noticeable build-up of speed from the flags, which is really good, because for that finish you really want to be hitting the wall hard and building up that speed as much as you have left so that you can finish the race as fast as you can. Also, with your actual finish on the wall, you had a good extension of your arm. Again, that minimises time, which is really effective. Again though, your breathing is another aspect that you need to improve on with your finish, because you are breathing even after the flags, which again is going to cost you time, so you need to improve and work on that to make sure that your 50 metre sprint is effective as possible. Okay? Right, so with regard to your second core skill, which is your head action, your breathing action and your body positioning. So with your head action, you were actually able to keep it really straight. There weren't any little movements in the water. So by making sure that your head stays as still as possible, that makes sure that the rest of your body also does the correct movements. You were looking at the appropriate point. So your head wasn't too low, it wasn't too high in the water, which would have created resistance. You were looking perfectly where you should have been, which meant that your overall hips were also quite high up in the water. Your breathing movements were too big. So when you breathed, your head came out of the water too much, which meant that it affected your head, it affected your head movements, and obviously then it had an effect on the rest of your body. With regard to your breathing, a good thing was that they were actually quite quick. So even though you were bringing them out, it was still quite a quick movement, so that was really good. Unfortunately though, you were breathing too often, as I said, so you really got to try and work on minimizing the amount of breaths you take. So you shouldn't be taking one after the first few strokes after your dive. You shouldn't be taking one into your turn or out of your turn, and you definitely shouldn't be taking one when you go into your finish, because you know that's one of the important tactics. You minimize the number of breaths you take, it means your overall swim is going to be quicker. With regard to your body positioning, what was good was your hips were high, which was good for your overall body positioning, and also there weren't much movements, so the only movements that you had was your body rotation, and your hip rotation was really effective. It meant that you extended your arms as you went through the water, which is good. Something you can improve on though with your body positioning is your leg kick was a little bit too slow, which meant that your legs were a tiny bit too low in the water. And obviously if you're trying to almost drag your legs through with you, it's going to affect your overall effectiveness of your stroke. Also affected your body positioning. So if you have a much stronger kick, your legs are elevated in the water, you've got more buoyancy, it's just much easier for you to travel through the water more effectively. One way you could work on, say for example, your head positioning, again, you could do the drill where you've got one arm extended, so the kicking drill, one arm extended, head looking down into the water, and you just really work on keeping your head as straight as possible alongside your arm. One way you work on your hip rotation is really trying to work on that catch-up drill. So using that rhythm that you build, using that drill, you really work on the movement of your hip alongside your arm movement as you have to wait for each stroke. Okay? Right, so with regard to your last core skill, which is obviously your arms and your legs. So with your arms, a positive point was the fact that you had a really good reach with every stroke. So if you've got a good reach, good hip rotation, it means that you're travelling further each stroke. So you've got a really good stroke distance. Obviously that means that your overall stroke is going to be really effective. Things that you can, another good point actually about your arms was the fact that you kept the centre line. So with your stroke, you entered and kept the pull out on the correct side. So that centre line was always kept, or was maintained on the whole 50 metres. So there was no crossover of your arms. Some things you could do to improve it though, you could work on the underwater actual pull out of your stroke, because sometimes with your stroke, you're not doing it as effectively enough, so you're not pushing enough water back and moving further with every stroke. Another thing, sometimes you slap the water on entry, so a way to improve that would by using the finger trail drill. So you've really got to work on making sure that your fingertips are trickling along the top of the water, and your fingertips enter the water first and then they pull down. So it really just works on keeping that almost elegant nature of your stroke. With regard to your legs, they were kept together, so even when you rotated, there was no large movements between your feet, so you really kept it smooth and together. Your momentum again was maintained, however it could have been a lot stronger, and with a stronger kick obviously it helps your overall body position, it helps your arms, it helps your head positioning. Another thing, they were a bit too low in the water, which impacted your overall body positioning because your whole body wasn't elevated on top of the water as much as it could have been. To improve the first part, we'll do the core skill 1, so we're going to try to improve your turns. One way we can do that is if you go out to the flags, here, and what we're going to do is really concentrate on just your turns, that overall fast movement of your legs onto the wall, and then concentrating on your underwater fly kick. One of the main issues with your 53 was that you're breathing, so you were breathing too often. You breathe into your turn and also out of your turn. And doing that, you're obviously breaking up the momentum that you've got from going into your turn, but also when you come out of your underwater kick. Your underwater kick is meant to be one of the fastest parts of your overall 53. So if we try and improve that, then you'll see a significant difference. Right, so all I want you to do It's head down, no breathing from the flags into the turn and past the flags. So I want fast front crawl, fast pace, and then I want at least 3 rapid underwater fly kicks. Off you go. Right, that was really good because your streamline was so secure. So obviously that's going to minimise the resistance against your body, which means that you move so much more efficiently through the water. This time I want you to concentrate only on your underwater fly kick, okay? Because there's no point in doing slow, big fly kicks, okay? So you really want at least 3 really rapid, fast fly kicks, okay? Here you go. Right, that was much better, and you can see that with those fast fly kicks, you've got to at least pass the flags without even doing any strokes. So if you can work on sustaining that and always doing that in a 53, it's going to help, okay? And it's going to make your 53 so much faster overall. We'll just do one more. This time I want you to concentrate on your breakout onto the surface of the water. So at least 3 really powerful, fast front crawl arms, okay? But again, rapid fly kicks. Off we go. That was really good because you can see that with that momentum that you were able to build up from, even when you turned over your legs onto the wall and then explosively pushed off the wall into those rapid fly kicks, you could see that that momentum that you built up carried on through to when you broke out onto the surface, and that just means that the whole phase of your 53 is going to be so much faster. Okay? Right, now what we're going to have a look at is your second core skill, and we're going to mainly look at your breathing action. So in that 53 that you did, although your breathing was done really quickly, which is obviously really good because you want your head to be moving from out of the water into the water quickly, because it means that you minimise, that resistance that you're building. This time, the only problem though was that when your head was brought out of the water, the movements were too large. So because of that, because your head was coming out too far, it impacted the rest of your body. So we need to work on trying to minimise the movement of your head when you breathe. One way we can do that is using a kickboard. So what we're going to do, as well as working on your front crawl kick, all I want you to do is hold the kickboard out in front of you, extended arms, and when you want to breathe, you just lift your head to the side and then straight back in. Okay, so I just want small, minimal movements. So you're just looking to the side and then back, okay? Either side, just to halfway. Here you go. With those minimal head movements, there was no impact on the rest of your body. So when you were breathing, you could see that your hips weren't moving with your head. They were kept straight, which is good because when you're only doing front crawl kick, you want your hips to be kept like that. Right, so we'll do one more half length, again concentrating on minimal head movement. Okay, again. Good. This time we're going to use the port buoy so that you completely, so that you're not concentrating about your legs. So you isolate purely your arms and your head movement, so you don't have to think about your legs, which makes it easier for you. So all I want you to do is front crawl pull again. As we bring in your arms, again I want you to concentrate on keeping minimal head movements. Okay? even though you've now brought in your arms as well, you can see that your head movements were still kept really small. Okay, and although now your hips are rotating, they have to, so that you get that efficiency through the water. And even with all of that, your head was still kept. It still had those small movements when you were breathing. So that's much better than what you were doing in your 53. Okay, so if you just do one half length to finish, you go. So the important thing with your breathing, especially in a 53, because it's such a short race and it's a sprint, really you want to be keeping your breathing to a minimal, okay, as minimal as you can. So importantly, obviously, I think your first breath should be at about halfway of the first length, and then just before your turn, so that you have enough oxygen and air to get you through that turn, through the fast rapid underwater fly kicks, and then into the first few strokes. Then I'd say another breath at just before halfway, and then just see how far you can go without a breath. Importantly, you shouldn't be breathing between the flags, okay? But that was much. Third core skill of that 53, what we're going to look at is your arms, okay? And specifically the way your arms are actually entering the water. For the most part of that 53, you're actually slapping the water. And if you're doing that, it means that your fingertips aren't entering first, which means that your overall efficiency is obviously going to be impacted. So one drill that you can use, which will significantly improve that, is the finger trail drill. So if we start off using the pull buoy, so again you isolate only your arms, so you're really concentrating on it. I want you to just do half the length of your best finger trail drill. Okay, so with that, you've got to make sure that only your fingertips are in the water, and then that's what enters the water first. Okay, because that will work on ensuring that there's no slapping of the water, and it just works on the smoothness of your overall stroke. Here you go. Another thing that this helps is actually your elbow, because with the finger trail drill you're forced to have a really high elbow, and that's obviously really good because the higher your elbow is, the more like you ensure that your fingertips and your hands are going to enter the water first, which is really good because that helps with the efficiency of your stroke. So if you just do another half length of that, please. Good. With your left arm, you're doing the finger trail really well, but then you sort of extend your arm as you get to the end of the stroke. So instead, I really want you to work on making sure that that finger trail is consistently in front. Okay, so I don't want you to flick your hands like that, but apart from that, it's really good. Okay, so if you just do another half length, you go. Well done, that was much better. You made sure that your fingertips entered the water first, and then you made sure that your hand pulled down, so it increases the efficiency. The second thing we're actually going to have a look at with regard to your arms of that 53 that you did is your underwater pull. So if you swap the pull buoy for the kickboard, and what I want you to do is we're going to focus on your underwater pull. Okay, so I really want you to focus on doing a nice, efficient underwater pull out so that it's as smooth as possible. So what we're going to do is you're going to keep the kickboard in front of you extended, and you're going to alternate your arms. Okay, so alternate the strokes. Only concentrate on your underwater part. Okay, so really try and work on the smoothness and also the amount of water that you're able to pull back. Because the more you pull back, the further you move in the water. Off you go. Really good, and by using that kickboard you ensure that you actually keep to your centre line, so there's no crossing over of your hands. And And obviously if you keep to that centre line, your overall body movement, especially your lower body, is going to keep to that, okay? So there's not going to be excess rotation. We're going to do it one more time, because with your right hand, you are sometimes bringing out your hand too far. So what I want you to do is concentrate. When you do your underwater, really try and keep your hands as close to that centre line as possible, okay? Here you go. That was a lot better, because you could see that because you had smaller movements and you weren't going out as wide, you were able to complete that phase of the stroke much faster, which means it's overall more efficient. Okay? Do that 53, so we're going to redo that performance, and this time you're really going to concentrate on those things that we've worked on. So you're going to work on your underwater fly kick from the dive and from the turn. I really want them to be rapid, fast kicks, so you ensure that you build that momentum, then you carry that through, because you're not going to breathe from the flags or into the turn, out of the turn. Okay, so by doing that, you ensure that that momentum is kept. Concentrate on your breathing actions, so I don't want your head movements to be too large, because that will obviously impact your overall stroke. And lastly, really concentrating on the way that your hands are entering the water. Okay, so even though you're going to be doing this 50 at a fast pace, you still have to concentrate on the efficiency of your overall stroke. Okay, so if you're ready, take marks, go. Significant improvement in many aspects from the first 53 that you did to the second 53, including mainly the fact that you didn't breathe out of the turn, into the turn, from the dive. So you know, it was really fast, especially because you had such a strong leg kick, and that helps overall your whole stroke. But your breathing was significantly improved, so well done. And also your hand entry, although you picked up the pace, so it's going to be harder for that stroke to be smooth, you were able to maintain a smooth movement, okay? So well done.
Okay, Martha, so from the performer that you've just coached for their condition practice, can you just talk to me about what you feel their main strengths were, please?
Okay, so the swimmer that I just coached for her 53 conditioned performance, one of her main strengths was actually her body positioning, because it was effective because of a number of reasons, and one of these was she had high hips, and this obviously meant that she had quite a good buoyancy in the water, so there was minimal resistance created against her, and she was able to travel through the water easily. Her hip rotation also aided this, because she was able to effectively rotate in the water, and therefore this helped with her overall extension, and also again meant that there was minimal resistance, and so she moved quite fast through the water as well. Another strength that she had was her arm action throughout the 53. Again, because she had an effective hip rotation, she was able to extend both of her arms throughout each stroke. And also because of this, her centre line was maintained, so every time she took a stroke, her underwater or her hand entry didn't go over her centre line. So this meant that she travelled in a relatively straight direction, and also that there was no resistance created because of how effective she was travelling through the water.
Okay, thanks. And weaknesses that you feel that the performer had through that condition practice?
So her main weakness out of all of them was probably her breathing action, and this was because when she moved her head side to side to take a breath, the movements were too large, and so this had an overall impact on the rhythm of the stroke. And so because her breathing was quite slow, this meant that her arms they had to pause, so it broke up the rhythm. Um, this also affected her head positioning because it was actually too high in the water, and this was because she was looking too far forwards. So you're meant to have your head with the water line just above your eyes but below your hairline, whereas she was looking forwards, and so this meant that her head was too high, and this also impacted her lower body because that was obviously too low, so resistance was created. Her head was also not kept still, and this obviously meant that her rotation was a little bit off, and she also took too many breaths. So in a 50 free it's a sprint, and so strategically you're meant to take, I'd say, about 4 to 5 breaths, whereas she took one on, say, 2 strokes after her dive and then into her turn, and this is just going to break up the momentum that she had. Another weakness that she had was her hand entry. This was because it wasn't smooth enough, so it's almost like she was slapping the water for some strokes, and this is because her fingers weren't tight enough. And so this also meant that her underwater phase of each stroke wasn't effective because she wasn't able to push as much water behind her. So she could have moved through the water more efficiently. And again, this means that potentially she wasn't extending her arms enough with each stroke.
Okay. And just as a priority, which ones do you feel have the biggest impact on her performance?
I'd say definitely her biggest weakness was her breathing action, because this impacted the rest of her body positioning throughout the 50 free, and also meant that with regards to her breathing, she breathed too often, and so this broke up the rhythm of her stroke, and it broke up the speed that she potentially could have had.
Okay. So I know you've been working with her for a period of time, but if you just talk through practices and strategies that you would, detailed ones that you would put in to help develop aspects of those weaknesses.
Well, with regard to her breathing action, you can utilise a snorkel, so a snorkel that goes straight up, and this means that you're forced to keep your head still, but also enables you to look in the correct position, because if you look too high, then obviously water's going to go in the snorkel, so it forces you to mimic the positioning that you're meant to have in a 50 free. Therefore, she'd be able to improve the correct positioning, and this would obviously aid the rest of her body because she'd be able to mimic that same positioning in a 50 free. To work on the size of her breathing, you can use a kickboard. So just doing front crawl freestyle, using a kickboard also aids your buoyancy, so she's able to concentrate on her head movements whilst also being elevated in the water. But using a kickboard and just taking small minimal breaths to the side to really try and work on reducing the size of the breathing. Again, breath holding exercises, because she breathed too often in her 50 free. You could just do 25 meters underwater. You could use fins for front crawl and butterfly kick to aid you, but just really working on endurance and trying to keep that those breaths to a minimal. To improve the hand entry, because she was slapping the water, drills you could use, one of them being the finger trail drill, and this is when you brush your fingertips over the water, and this means that you're forced to enter the water with your fingertips first, and therefore it's much smoother, it's a smoother movement, and again she would be able to mimic this in a 50 front crawl if she practiced this and built that movement. You can also use a pull buoy to isolate your arms so that you don't have to focus on multiple things, so that your body positioning is aided because of this buoyancy float, and therefore you only concentrate on the arm action, which is what she needs to improve.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Martha.